everyone and welcome back. So today I'm doing a first impression on the Urban Decay All Nighter Foundation. Now I did only get a sample of this because I am not willing to pay the full price for the full thing if I don't know if I like it or not. So from now on, most of my high-end first impressions may be a little sample size because that is what I'm going to do in order to test it out before I actually buy the product. So, if you guys are interested in seeing how the Urban Decay All Nighter Foundation works and wears on my skin, then just keep watching. Okay, so I have the information on it here. So, seeing as I have a sample, it comes in a little jar like this. I got my sample in the shade 1.0 because that is what the girl apparently colour matched me to. But in case you don't know, that is what the bottle looks like. This foundation retails for $65 and you get the standard 30ml size. So $65 is a hell of a lot. That's even more expensive than Estee Lauder. That's more expensive than quite a few other foundations that I have seen or tried. Like I mentioned, I have the shade 1.0 and the color range is really nice. I see it comes in 24 shades, so that is relatively okay. With other brands coming out for things in a lot more shades now, I think that they could expand the shade range. It doesn't seem to go like too many deep shades. It's more all the pale to medium colors, and we will test out to see what the shade 1.0 is like on my skin. There's 207 reviews on the M.A.C website and it has a 4 out of 5 star rating with an average of 3.8. So the claims for this foundation are that it is supposed to be a full coverage and flawless foundation, waterproof, oil-free, matte and ultra long wearing. It says that it is it's going to perfect your complexion for a completely airbrush finish. So I shall see if that actually works. There are quite a few people who said they wouldn't recommend it for people with dry skin. I have very oily skin. I go oily all over my forehead, all over my nose, and it will spread all the way out my chin, my top lip, my chin. And if I'm wearing a very dewy foundation and I don't bake or anything, I will even get the oil coming down here. So I am very oily. I decided to try this foundation because it is supposed to be very, very matte and I'm hoping it works. Okay, so before I jump straight into the first impression and demo, I want to show you some swatches of the All Nighter foundation compared to other foundations. So this is the Urban Decay All Nighter foundation in 1.0. This has oxidized. All of these I have waited for them to finish oxidizing. So this is the Urban Decay one. This is Maybelline Matte and Poreless in 110. I have barely any left, so I apologize for such a shitty swatch. This is Dermacol 208. I just got this new shade and this one actually works a lot better for me. This is the L'Oreal Infallible Matte 24-Hour Foundation in the shade Vanilla. And this is the Designer Brands Velvet Matte Foundation in the shade Porcelain Ivory. So as you can see, the colour is quite more yellow compared to the rest of them, but I find that that's really nice because the shade is slightly darker than the Maybelline one, which is nice because it matches me slightly better. So I have my Chi Chi sponge here, which is actually perfectly clean. It's just stained as hell and it's already wet. And then I am going to go in and use my round top brush on the other side of my face. My brush is also perfectly clean, that way I don't have other foundations mixing in with it to change the consistency and things like that. I always try to do it with perfectly clean brushes. So I'm going to just tie my hair back out of my face because it's annoying me. I have already washed my skin with my charcoal cleanser and then I went over the top of it with my Simple Light Hydrating Moisturiser and my Sukin Antioxidant Eye Cream. So those are the products that I use of a morning regardless if I'm wearing makeup or not. And yeah, so this is what my skin looks like at the moment. My cheeks are quite red and my nose, I don't know why. That's probably because it's just first thing of the morning. That thing is scarring. That was such a huge pimple lately. That was such a huge breakout. That has scarred. That's a scar. You can see I've got a lot of scars on my forehead and on my chin in particular. Apart from my cheeks being quite red, my skin has actually been like perfect. Apart from that thing, my skin's been like perfect the past week. It hasn't been too sensitive, it hasn't been too terrible. I do have minimal texture from all of my scars on my forehead. I have a tiny bit in between my eyebrows, which I probably should have removed with my black peel off mask, but it also gives me a chance to see if this adheres really badly to any dry or textured skin. My pores are looking a little bit smaller because I've been using a couple of different pore masks and things like that. But overall my skin has been very good lately. I've been getting a little bit more oily than usual, but that's because I've been doing a lot more than usual. So we're going to go in and apply the foundation now. The girl said this is very full coverage, so this should do me quite a while. And this is what the consistency looks like. So it's not running out of the jar, it's not too thick, but it's not also like moussey. So it seems to be quite a nice consistency. My face actually really likes foundations that are this consistency. I start with my sponge on this side and my brush on this side. So I'm just going to dip my sponge on the top and get some, and I'm actually just going to start with that and see what it does. That looks like it's going to be too much, but oh my god, okay. I've put too much on. Okay, so that amount of product was probably a little bit too much, and the shade actually, I thought it was going to be too dark, but the shade actually might be a little bit too pale. Lately I have been going for some foundations that are slightly darker than what I am. It doesn't match my shoulders at all because my shoulders have been getting a bit of a tan. It does pretty much match me perfectly, but like I mentioned in my favorites video, I have been wearing foundations that are ever so slightly too dark for me because I find that that gives me a much better look. I don't look as dead. Anyway, that little amount I used has covered everything. I probably could have actually used that to do my entire face. It's blended in very quickly and perfectly with the sponge. It is looking a little bit heavy over my texture in between my eyebrows, but it's not looking like completely terrible. It's caking up a bit on the sides of my nose, but every single foundation does that. But overall, it actually looks really, really nice. It still has a slight hint of a glow to it. It might dry down. I set my foundations anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's looking a little bit heavy around my patch up here that had all the breakouts on it. But it's actually looking quite smooth over all the breakouts and things on my chin here. It's covered up my redness and everything like perfectly. So I'm going to see how it applies with the brush. I'm actually just going to dot it on my face this time. As far as I can tell, the foundation has no scent, which is fantastic because it's just better for your skin when foundations don't have a scent in them. And the girl was right, this sample is going to last me for quite a while, so I might actually never need to buy the bottle. I might just keep going and get samples. So I'm going to start blending it in with my brush. Okay, so first up thoughts, I would not apply this with a brush if I wanted my skin to look perfect. It's looking a little bit too heavy. It doesn't look like it has sunk into my skin as much. I am going to wait and let it like dry down a bit more to see if it's that or if it needs to sink into my skin. The colour is definitely too pale. It is building up on my brush quite a bit, so I will definitely need to either run this over a makeup wipe or wash this brush in the end. Throughout my time of like using my brushes, I usually end up washing my foundation brushes after every 2 to 3 uses anyway. But this is caking up on my brush a little bit more than some other foundations. But overall, it's looking very nice. It is super, super flawless. I am just going to grab the tiniest bit more and just like smooth it over here just to see if it makes it look less textured, because it just was looking heavy over everything. And there we go, that's just made it look a little bit more skin-like now. So I used up the tiniest little bit that's in here, so like I mentioned, I might just go and keep getting samples of this in different stores. But overall, I can see why people with dry skin don't like this. This side has dried down, and yes, on my skin, I actually like that super chalky matte finish, because after about 2 hours, my skin will start and look a lot more dewy and a lot more oily, particularly around my nose. That's where I go oily the quickest. So I don't care if first off the bat it looks quite heavy and like chalky, but yes, it will have that almost chalky finish on someone who has dry skin. I can tell that already. It's not caking up over my brows or anything. It has set down. I'm still going to set it because I set my foundation every day anyway. I'm not going to bake because I just want to see how long this lasts on its own. But overall, the colour actually matches me very nice. I really like it. But personally, I will probably go a bit darker if I were to buy this. I'm just going to use up the sample. I might even mix in a darker foundation with it. But overall, it's like super flawless coverage. It does look quite nice on my face. And really, at the moment, I don't actually have anything to complain about. It does look like I'm wearing makeup. It doesn't have that perfect skin-like finish. But sometimes if you want ultra full coverage, you got to make that little bit of a sacrifice. But overall, I think it looks really nice. I'm not going to be using a setting spray either because I don't use setting sprays like to make my makeup last longer. I've got ones I've used in videos, but they don't actually make my makeup last. I'm going to use all my normal products. Once I go and do the rest of my makeup, I'll come back and tell you what I've used. But overall, it's looking very nice. I'm going to do a flash test now, so I'm going to turn my flash on and I'm going to do a flash test. Okay, so it could be the fact that this foundation is too pale for me, but there is quite a bit of flashback. So just so you guys can see it, I will post the photo now. Yes, there is quite a bit of flashback, but it does look like perfect and airbrushed and really nice on my face. So this one would not be something I would use for flash photography or anything, because it is a heck of a lot. Like sitting here, it looks like it's darker than my face, but obviously it is ghostly, so I would not wear this for flash photography, but it does look nice. So if you want to wear a darker one, so it doesn't look as intense, then go ahead. It does look very nice and airbrushed on the photo, so I actually quite like that. I would not use it for flash anyway, just with that flashback, but it does look nice and airbrushed. So I'm going to go and do the rest of my makeup and I'll be right back. I'm going to call this check-in time 9:30. It says it's 9:28 at the moment, and I will be right back. I am back now. The time is currently like 10 past 10 pretty much. I took my dear sweet time this morning. I was watching some videos while I was doing my makeup. So as you can see, I'm all done. So I'm going to tell you what's on my face. So for concealer, I used the Maybelline Fit Me concealer in the shade 15. I already had the foundation under my eyes, so this looks a little bit more full coverage than what it normally is, but I just grabbed this today to use. Under eye powder was my usual, my Maycheer and my Australis banana powder. Face powder today, I used the Model Co Invisible Matte Powder that I have been using for most of my first impressions. This is a more matte powder, but it's not like Rimmel Stay Matte where it makes everything look chalky matte. I find if you have a matte foundation, and like today I want to test to see how long it wears for, this is nice enough to where it sets my foundation to a matte finish, but it doesn't like change the consistency of it. So I use this powder for most of my first impressions because it doesn't add a glow, but it also doesn't make it look chalky matte either. So that is why my face still has like the tiniest bit of a glow. This is just like their translucent shade or whatever, but I quite like this, and it's not adding coverage. It doesn't take coverage away. It doesn't make my pores look huge. It doesn't emphasize texture. So this is just a really nice powder to try for the first time, like with a foundation for the first time. Bronzer was the Nars bronzer in Laguna. I've been using that a little bit again lately. To contour my face, I used my Australis contour kit in Lighter Than Light. I bought this one and I used the shade over here to contour, and I also used the pinky shade as my highlight. I used a tiny bit of the gold one under my brow just because I thought the gold one would work a bit more, and the banana powder I used to like blend my blush because I blended it a little bit too close to my nose. But that is what's on my face. I used my highlight only on my cheekbones, my nose, and my Cupid's bow. I didn't add it anywhere else. I used it on my brow bone. I didn't add it anywhere else just because throughout the day I want to be able to see if it's the highlight on my face or if I'm getting oily. For blush, I used the Colourpop blush in the colour Holiday. I love this, it's just gorgeous. I just decided to add like a spring flush. It's like freezing cold and absolutely like terrible weather, but I'm wearing like my tropical shirt and I'm hoping that it'll soon turn into spring. For eye primer, I'm actually testing the Colourpop No Filter Concealer because it's the only concealer I have actually. I tried it like by accident as an eye primer the other week. I forgot to put my MAC one on and my eyeshadow actually lasted fairly well. So I'm testing this out today as well for the actual longevity of it. Eyeshadows today are all the Colourpop Dream Street palette by Kathleen Lights. I use the colour Magical like high up in my crease, and then I use the colour Potion as like the really red shade you can see. I used a little bit of the colour Moony on my lid. That's also on my inner corner, and it was under my brow bone highlight, but I added the Australis one over the top. And then I just put Magical and Potion on my lower lash line. So that is what I have done today. This is basically my go-to look with that palette. If I want it to be brighter, I will add the colour Spark, which is the pink one here, but I didn't do that today. For mascara, I used my combo of the three that I have. I've got my Urban Decay Perversion, my Laguna Mineral, this is on my lower lashes, and I also opened a few weeks ago the Australis Fierce Eyes Volumizing Mascara. Not overly impressed with this, but this combo will do for now. My brows is my usual e.l.f. brow kit and Australis brow gel, but that's on the floor. And for my lips, I use the Focalure lip liner in the colour Nude Desert. This is like super, super pale nude, like orangey peachy colour, but it's like a super amazing formula. Really nice and creamy. I compare it to the Urban Decay ones, but it's not as creamy as the Urban Decay ones. And over the top, I mixed two Maybelline lipsticks. The first one I put on was 728 Honey Beige. Now this is slightly too yellowy tone for me to be able to wear on its own, even if it's mixed like over a lip liner. So over the top, I added a little bit of the matte one that I have in Purely Nude. This is like lighter and slightly more peachy, so I actually mixed them all together. I tried the matte one with just the Focalure lip pencil together and it's just way too pale. So I mixed in a bit of this and it is a lovely, lovely colour. I really like it. So that was everything. Now that my makeup is fully done, I'm going to do another flash test. As you can see, there is still quite a bit of a flashback. Not as bad as it was with just the foundation because I've got bronzer and everything on, but my face still does look excessively pale compared to the rest of me. But so far so good. It has sort of caked up a tiny bit more on the sides of my nose, but that's going to happen with every foundation. I have never found one that doesn't do that. It's looking a little bit heavy in between my eyebrows, but other than that now, it's settling into my crease here just a tiny bit in the very center. But yeah, other than that, it's looking totally fine. You can tell I have makeup on my face, but it's not like really excessively bad. So I can't wait to see how this wears throughout the day because my favourite foundation is Estee Lauder Double Wear, and it would be nice if I can find another one that I like as well. So all my other ones are just, you know, they'll do, but I'm liking this at the moment. I have yet to be fully disappointed. So my check-in time was 9:30 and I will be back later. Hello everyone, so the time is currently 5 to 2, so I'm just going to call this 2 o'clock. The foundation has been on since 9:30, and I have to say, so far I am not very happy. I will zoom you guys in a minute to show you what I mean, but it is going very heavy looking on my forehead. It's like breaking up and looking extremely textured in between my eyebrows. It's breaking up on my nose and it's looking extra yellow in this like little triangle on the end. And I am starting to go a bit oily. Now with my Estee Lauder Double Wear, I don't normally start to go oily till about the 6-7 hour mark. So from it being 9:30 to 2 o'clock, I'm going oily a little bit quicker, which is odd considering this is such a like chalky matte foundation. It didn't feel moisturizing or hydrating at all. So I'm quite surprised I am starting to go oily, particularly on my forehead. Like this is a lot for right now. So the foundation has been on for 4.5 hours, and on my forehead and my nose and around my nose in particular, it's beginning to look very, very heavy. It's wearing off like over my chin for some reason. It's worn off around my mouth a bit, but that's because I had to wipe my lip color off when I was eating lunch because I could taste my like lipstick as I was eating, so I had to wipe it off. So it's worn off just in the very edges of my mouth, but like it's coming off all down here. It's wiped off under my chin where my lip touches. It hasn't actually worn off anywhere else, and my blush and bronzer and highlight and everything is still on, but I'm just going, it's too heavy for it to look skin-like. So if I had started to go this oily by now with, say, my Maybelline Matte and Poreless, it would make it look more skin-like. I would look extremely dewy, but it would be more skin-like. Whereas this, it's looking very heavy, very, very makeup-y, and my face isn't burning, but it's almost like I can tell my skin can't breathe. I can feel this foundation on is very, very heavy. As of a first impression today, I am not overly impressed with it, and I am so glad I only got the sample and I didn't actually go and buy it, because for the past like year or since it's been out, I have wanted to just go and buy it, and I am so glad I didn't. So obviously I'm going to have to play around with other things. Keep in mind I don't have a primer on and I didn't bake. So I do normally bake if I want my foundation to last, and that's with any foundation. So I will test this out with baking and other things, but at the moment it's not looking too crash hot. So here we go. This is my nose, obviously, and I don't know if you can see, but it's like the line down here where there is that like extra yellow bit, and I have no idea why. It's rubbed off onto my nose a bit too because I have been wiping my nose all day, but it's like melting around here. Every foundation does that, but it's like that, and this is what my forehead looks like. I always get some heaviness here, but this is extreme considering I don't have that much texture there at the moment. And it is really, really breaking down on my forehead. It has sunk into that crease a lot more, and it's mostly in between my eyebrows here that's making it look very heavy. It's the center here in general. It's just looking very dry or very heavy. That is my check-in for 2 p.m. and I will most likely just come and check back with you guys at the end of the night. I'm not going to wait till the end of the night. I'm basically just going to wait for as long as I can keep this on, because it's starting to feel like mask-like, and when I start and go oily with a very heavy foundation, I start to feel like my face down here goes like really sticky. So as long as I can keep this on, I will. So I'll check back in with you guys later. Okay, so the time is currently 6:37, so I'm going to say it is like 20 to 7, and it's actually still light, which is amazing because I can finish filming. So the foundation has been on since 9:30. The foundation has been on for literally just over 9 hours, and I think that is enough of a chance because I pretty much won't be wearing it longer than that. So earlier I did grab my makeup sponge as it's pretty much dry, and I dipped it and rubbed it in my Rimmel Stay Matte, and I did press it on my face just to see if it would make a difference in the oiliness of my skin, and it did. It actually made it settle down quite a lot. However, I don't know if you can see, but it like has highlighted all the like little holes, I guess you could say, of me being oily, because as you can see, it's all separated from my pores and things like that. I do have sunglasses marks, but I get horrific sunglasses marks every time I put foundation on. My forehead did settle down, but it still looks exceptionally dry. Not dry, just heavy. It's fully caking in between my brows. It has settled into that line. My bronzer, blush and highlight is all still on. It's come off my chin a bit more. And again, same with my nose. You can see there's all that like little holes as the foundation sunk into my pores. Or it's like when I start to go oily, it's like the oil starts coming out of my pores, and like you can see the holes where my pores are. There's no foundation there because they're leaking the oil, and it's basically my foundation is only in between my pores, and that's what it looks like. But my concealer has stayed on. My concealer didn't have any trouble blending out, by the way. I thought I'd mention that. Absolutely no problem. It hasn't creased in my mouth lines along the sides here too badly. What else should I say? It did oxidize the tiniest little bit, but the shade is still relatively good. Just looking heavy around a lot of my scars and texture now. It's just not looking the best across my forehead. So I'm going to have to try different ways of using this foundation. I will use up the sample that I have, but from this first impression, I would not buy the full bottle. This is not lasting on my skin as well as I thought it would, and it's not looking the best. It's too heavy on my face. Maybe if I went and used my black peel off mask and got rid of a lot of that texture, it mightn't look as bad, but all day it looked really heavy on my forehead. It has looked a little bit more lightweight on my cheek area, but then again I don't have as much texture and stuff there. I was very happy with how quickly it blended out. It did blend out a heck of a lot easier with a sponge. With a brush it still blended out fine, pardon me, but it did have the slightest like issue. It felt really dry, and it still feels like kind of heavy on my face. Overall, from a distance, it looks amazing. It's super flawless, and like I agree with the airbrush finish on the bottom part of my face, so from my eyes down. On my forehead, it doesn't quite have that smooth airbrushed finish, but if I remove a lot of that texture, it might. That's just my forehead in particular. I might have also used too much product on my forehead as well, but this is the first time I've truly had like real heaviness and things like that there. This is honestly the first time in a while I've tried a foundation that I am not super impressed with. So I liked the amount of coverage it gave me very quickly. I'm going to try it multiple different ways and let you guys know. But it didn't come off my neck either, which I found to be really nice. It's covered up a lot of my freckles and things I have here as well, which I found really nice. So that was my review slash first impression on the Urban Decay All Nighter foundation. If you guys like this foundation and you don't like it on its own, please tell me what you mix it with or what primers you like with it, because I would be more than willing to try them. I will be trying this in multiple different ways, like I mentioned, and letting you know what my favourite way is to wear it. But other than that, that is the end of this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will link the Urban Decay foundation down below, and I will also link my social media sites down there and everything else that I want you guys to know, including the rest of the makeup that I have on. Hit the subscribe button that's in the corner down there, please. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.